Welcome back. Today we're gonna do a react to Zach and Annie, Simple Scottish Living. Parenting is different in Britain versus America, which I 100% agree with, but I'm curious what their reasons are, and I'll tell you mine. Yeah.
Yeah, we mentioned wanting to give our kids more freedom and stuff, but not when they're able to drive somewhere. Freedom in a field or a beach or something like that. But yeah,
Not on the road.
15-year-old out in the wild, geez, yikes.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Annie, and this is Zach. And today's topic is about the differences between parenting in the UK versus the US.
Yes, we took a break last week because we had family visiting during our 2+ week Easter holiday, which is fantastic. And now we are back ready to talk about those wretched little children.
And the reason that we are experts in this area is because we recently, within the past year, moved our family from California over to Scotland. And this is where we are for the long haul now.
Which includes 3 children under the age of 10.
Yes.
So
So
we're in the thick of it.
yes, we have a toddler and then two school-aged boys, but we have lots of friends and families in both countries and know the ins and outs of the different stages. So we're going to go through those in a systematic fashion and give you our honest thoughts and yeah, perspectives, I guess.
So honestly, raising children in the UK and the US, there are a lot of similarities. After all, the countries, in the grand scheme of things, are not that different culture-wise. It's not like growing up in Asia or in a third world country in Africa, for example. So we have found a lot of similarities, but we find some funny and very interesting differences as well.
Yes. And of course, we need to preface this before you come at us in the comments.
They'll still come. They'll still come.
They'll still be coming. Um, Parenting in both countries, there is a spectrum. You have your crunchy granola moms who are all about the natural holistic, breastfeeding your child till they're 12. Just and
Ew. Jesus. Gross.
then you have
That's 144 months.
the parents on the other end of the spectrum who've read every single baby book and are doing things to the T by what are doctors' recommendations and what you hear from the pediatrician and everything in between and even outside of those spectrums.
I was about to say,
The non-parents.
I think across 3 children, we've probably tried a little bit of everything
Mhm.
and just end up finding that whatever works for you is the right thing to do.
And whatever works for one child definitely doesn't work for the
Sure.
other child.
Yeah.
So keeping all that in mind, we're going to sort of touch on the basics that we have.
I actually find that whole genre of parenting, like books and all that kind of stuff, a little bit pretentious because I'm not saying that. I mean, I did a lot of research when we were having our child about, like how we can discipline and all that kind of stuff. And there's 1,000 different ways out there, and you just kind of pick the one that works. I've found though that there's like a whole group of people in that sector that really like to get down on people. They don't parent correctly or if they do things wrong and stuff. So I mean, of course, I have my opinions and all, but I try to keep them to myself because I don't want anyone telling me how to parent. Um, but yeah, I mean, of course, there's spectrums everywhere you go, right?
Noticed as, I guess, general.
That's not to say that if you need help or you have a question, you shouldn't try to seek it out. Just be really careful where you're getting your information from. That's all. Because make sure that you're looking at a few different sources. And find the one that works for you. And if it doesn't work for you, then don't do it. Like if it's not working, then change it. You don't stick to something that's not working just because like a book told you to do it.
Well, what would you call it?
General upbringing.
Takeaways, whatever.
Okay, so let's start at the start with some major differences and parenting decisions during prenatal and the infancy stage.
Yeah. So a big difference and something that you have to plan as a family in the US is how you're going to use your maternity leave. When do you stop breastfeeding? If you're going back to work, are you going to be still choosing to breastfeed your child? And if you are, do you want your child to get breast milk when you're at work? Are you going to give them formula? Since in the US, your job is not secure in a lot of places more than 12 weeks with getting paid. Some people even go back to work as early as 6 weeks after delivering
12 weeks is a long time, actually. Not a lot of people get 12 weeks. You only like she said, you only get 6 weeks in a lot of places.
Child. The option to breastfeed exclusively for an entire year is really tricky in many instances. And this is why UK or US insurances actually cover the cost of a breast pump for every woman with every single new pregnancy she has. That's crazy, isn't
Yeah, it's very much dependent on the employer.
it? Mhm.
Actually, for my job,
For the insurance, it depends on the insurance that the employer provides. Um, but there are a lot of them that do that, yeah. I didn't find out that until after I'd already given I think I got one in my baby shower, I don't think I bought one, but, yeah, a lot of people don't even realize that, but, you have to, like yeah, I could tell you horror stories about pumping, we'll just save that for another episode.
I was able to take quite a bit of time off for each of our children, which was fantastic. And certainly that's not something that's definitely afforded to all fathers out
No.
there, let alone mothers who might be going to work after 6 weeks, like Anna
Yeah.
said. So
So if you go back to work and you do choose that you want your child to have breast milk, you have to express milk while at work, bring it home, store it, freeze it, and go from there. Whereas in the UK, a lot more women are able to breastfeed in the home setting for a whole year. And it makes that decision much easier, I feel.
and just recently, I don't know if it's recently, but now you can also split that year with your other half.
Hmm.
So if the woman is the main breadwinner, then that gives her the option to go back earlier and still have a caretaker at home.
Yep.
So
And those are just decisions you don't even have access to in the US necessarily. So that's a huge thing. And then moving on from
That's so true, and when you think about the fact that the woman's body doesn't even fully recover for a year after having a child, like, they're 6 weeks, that's a month and a half, you guys. That's a month and a half. Your kid is going into daycare at a month and a half old because most people don't have a choice. Most people have to go back to work because they can't afford not to. Because you don't get like, the pay that you get while you're on maternity leave, it's usually, unless you have a really good company, it's usually, like, the state disability, which is, like, 50% of your salary, if that. It's really not it's not conducive US is not conducive to have kids, which is why a lot of people chose not to have kids.
that, sort of the thoughts and feelings about breastfeeding in general.
so
Um,
I'm going to leave this up to the expert here. So
as you know, in Europe and throughout the UK, just seeing someone breastfeeding without a cover is completely acceptable. No one bats an eye. It's everywhere. You just see people out in public all the time, tops off, breastfeeding their child, completely normal. That is not always the case across the US,
mhm.
depending on where you are. In California, where we moved from, yeah, I would say it
I
wasn't
think definitely a lot
strange,
more common.
a
Yeah.
lot more common, but you still did see quite a few women covering themselves, having a blanket over the baby's face and their
It's, like, considered indecent in a lot of states to do that actually, to because you're showing your breast. You're showing your breast. So, like, there was a whole controversy. I don't know if there are laws against it but I know there was a whole controversy for a long time. I was, like, in my 20s, I think, about, like, women breastfeeding in public and stuff in the US.
shoulder, which just it's interesting the difference there and the preconceived notions people have. But then in Georgia, where I was raised, I would say most women are covered up when
Mhm.
breastfeeding their child in public. And some women choose not even to breastfeed in public because it's uncomfortable and you get a lot of stares, depending on where you are, of course. But that just goes to show there are differences between countries and those decisions you have to make.
Another thing in the UK, which we became aware of, which might make a parenting decision a whole lot easier for you and your partner, is the ability to job share. Not just in the school setting. I mean, one of our sons has a teacher who
Hmm.
job shares, and that allows someone to be at home obviously half the time. But any job, office-based job, any sort of sector will often advertise that as well as maybe flexi time, you can also have a job share
Yep.
with that position.
Especially in the NHS and healthcare.
You can have a job share. I didn't know that. I mean, I don't need to obviously know that because my child is not an infant or anything, but That's amazing. I didn't know that. That's a really, really good thing. That's a really good thing to offer for parents. I know they have to offer you flexibility, but they don't even have to do that in America. It's crazy.
You get that the job that I would have through the NHS, they're not always posted as having a job share, but if you reach out to them directly and ask, it's typically an option,
Hmm.
which is incredible, and it makes being able to do part-time that much more accessible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Annie mentioned before, I think California's maybe towards the front end of that sort of stuff.
Mhm.
But in the UK, I found in general, it definitely seems to be the employers are more like family focused
Yeah.
and trying to accommodate whatever accommodations you need or they can help you with in order to have a good work life balance.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree with that statement, definitely. UK is more aware of that, like, that need, at least.
Hmm. All right, let's get into some of the later years. After you get out of this baby season, we move into those decisions or parenting differences from school age and onward. So let's get into those. So I would say a general statement is that in the UK, parents give their kids much more freedom. And this means not only freedom as space away from you. My in California, I think I would give my kids like 10 feet away from me is what I would feel comfortable with in some
Definitely
areas.
within eyesight.
Eyesight.
Whereas here, if they disappear out of eyesight, personally, I'm not as concerned as maybe I was
Mhm.
in the States.
I'd feel way more comfortable with them going on their bikes and riding up ahead to a playground and playing for a bit without me right there than I would have in California, really anywhere.
I agree with that as well. The safety factor is so much more realistic here in the UK. You don't have it like that in the US. It's really hard. And they lived in California, which is a really I don't know where in California, but some of those areas in California are kind of tough. So I don't blame them.
Um, the other thing with that is parents give their kids more freedom as it relates to public transport.
Mm.
Mm.
And he was shocked to see
So
young school-aged children riding public transport by themselves.
Yes, totally, like 5, 6, 7-year-olds, like, riding trains to their school by theirself. I was shocked at that myself. That was huge for me. It still shocks me that my child uses, like, a public bus to get to and from school.
mhm.
I remember doing that when I was younger as well, and the whole public transport system over here is safer and more a part of everyday life.
And reliable.
Yes.
And it's interesting. I do feel
Accessible, like, it's just there more. Like, we didn't have bus systems really in New Jersey unless you were in one of the cities.
because the towns and villages are smaller, there is more of a sense of community and
Mm.
people know people and can spot people who might not have good
Belonging.
intentions or belong.
Us when we
So,
first moved there.
yeah. So that helps in one sense.
Where my mother-in-law lives is a smaller village, and, when she's there, like, people know that she's, like, she belongs there. People know that she is my mother-in-law's grandchild, right? Like, they might not know specifically who she is or whatever, but they know that she has family in that area, and they look after her. You don't really have that in the UK in the US. Just in the sense of community is very, very different in the US.
But another thing is that I don't know, it's just part of the culture.
I had a strange theory about this as well that the US is so based around major highways, it's like easier to sort of nip in and out of suburban towns if you do have bad intentions. Whereas here, you're gonna get stuck behind roadworks or some little narrow road, and
You're not fleeing for 100
yeah,
miles on some vast interstate
that
and
might
getting
just
off.
be the former CHP officer in me. But anyway,
It does. It generally feels safer. And even your brother, he was talking about living in one area and maybe sending his kids to school in a different
mm,
area. So I was like, how is that going to work? You work. It's like they get on the bus. I'm like, oh,
yeah,
okay.
buses, trains. It's how a lot of kids do get to school, and
Hmm.
yeah.
And it's definitely not out of the norm to see children riding on public transport by themselves.
What my last job, I used to get off at the same time that schools let out, I guess, because the train would be full of kids. Full of kids getting back to their commute getting, commuting back from school. So, it still baffles me. Like, I'm still shocked even after a couple years in, but I mean, completely understand, and it is safer, but it is still really strange for me.
On this topic, and one of the factors that was part of our decision to move was that we want to give our kids the childhood that we both had growing up in the 90s when you're out about roaming free and came home when you got hungry or when the street lamps came on.
Hmm.
And something that we found recently over here is that there's a lot less parent interaction when it comes to like birthday parties.
Or even play dates.
Yeah.
So kids will arrange these on their own. And I've almost, it feels a little bit awkward when I try to talk with the parents about specifics and different things, um, which I find so interesting just how much leeway parents allow over
I
here
feel like
and
in the
trust.
US, there's almost like a vetting process. It's like, okay, well, I'll see if I like the parents. And if we get to know them, then you guys can like play together. Whereas here, yeah, or someone comes and is like, oh, this wants me to go around to his house to play. Like, oh, okay. Are their parents going to call me
Right, I
or
need
something? I
more
was like,
information.
no, they're just around the corner. It's like, does
I
not
still don't,
compute.
I do not feel comfortable. No.
Yeah, I could definitely relate to that too. It is like that in America where you definitely vet the parents because you wanna know what kind of environment they're gonna be in. Whereas here it is like obviously my child is older, but still, she's always like, I just say I don't have to meet the parents now because like, again, she's older, but I do say I need to have the parents' phone number in case anything happens. But other than that, because she doesn't answer her phone.
And then
So
even
just,
like birthday parties as well. It's just,
mhm.
okay, do we stay or it's like, oh
Yeah.
no, it's just have a party at our house. There's a bunch of kids here. Like you're free to drop them off and pick them up in a couple hours.
Yeah,
And
over
just
here, it's way more common from very early ages
mm.
to just drop your child off for a birthday party at someone's house and dispatch.
We just did it.
Yeah, I like that so much better too. I used to hate having people sit there and having to entertain the parents as well. I don't like it's like, what if you don't get along? Or what if you're just like, what if you got shit to do? Right? Like, what if you're in the middle of something? I don't know. I always hated like entertaining the parents as well. I never really disliked any of them. And I got along with all of them fine, but it's that forced socializing, I guess, thing again that I hate so much. So I like the system that you have here in UK where you just drop them off and you go. I like that much better.
I know, but for me, my comfort level would be about 10 years old is when I might
Mm.
start doing that. Whereas over here, when I was talking with some of the other parents, it's 4 or 5.
As I say, we had not got to that age yet.
Hmm.
But yeah, like I said, some of the other parents like, oh no, we've been doing that for a couple of years now, and this and the other.
Yeah.
And, I mean, these are not just random street children; they are kids from
They all go to
school.
the same school.
But
You're part of the same
we've
community.
not met their parents significantly
Hmm.
or anything other than saying hi at pick up and drop off. So
Yeah,
very interesting and something that we've noticed is very different
just a
between the
big
two
difference.
countries. Yeah.
So another difference between the UK and US parenting styles is people's comfort levels around loudness. And in the US, there's just so much more space. Houses
Excuses,
typically
excuses, excuses.
houses typically don't share walls. There are many more houses that are freestanding. Whereas over here, because there's a lot less space, there's a lot more semi-detached and row homes. If that's what you
Terrace
yes,
houses
terrace
and
housing.
flats and yeah,
Mhm.
there's a lot more sharing of wall ceilings and all that. And yeah, it's definitely a factor to consider. And it's a good point that Annie raised. Actually, I didn't think about it. And since we moved from our giant house in California where nobody was near us, our kids were loud and free around the place.
Uh-huh. But just having to reel that in a little bit because obviously you don't want to disrupt neighbors or make people feel uncomfortable in their own homes. So just being aware that in the UK, voices are typically softer and in all public spaces. And it's funny because I don't consider myself a loud person unless I'm around family and really close friends. Then I am. But over here, I, without a doubt, feel I'm one of the loudest when at like a kid's sports game or something.
Yeah, I've had to.
You see the way he was smiling when she was saying that. You could tell he's like, "Yeah, you're a loud American." And I've seen that look 1,000 times with myself. That's why I caught it. Oh.
Have to reel Annie in. She's on the side of the rugby line. She's the loudest voice by far. No, she was for a couple
There,
of practices and
That's a
games.
parenting thing that's
Yes.
different. So in the US, parents on the sidelines are cheering, like roaring on their kids and like, come over here, let me give you a little tidbit and interactive throughout the whole game.
Oh my God, never call your kid over to the sideline to tell them something. That's what their managers and coaches are for. That gets under my skin so much. You're not the coach. Just stand there and watch. You want to yell and scream, that's fine. You want to cheer for your kid, totally get it. But don't fucking pull them over and give them pointers in the middle of the game. It's not your job. Just step back. Oh, that gets under my skin.
Whereas in the UK, no, it is silence on the sideline.
I had to reel Annie in a practice session. She was trying to get her kids like, do this, just tease you there.
It's just different. I
Yeah.
had no idea. Felt so out of place once I realized.
Annie also was a very competitive football or soccer player.
Mhm.
So she's used to the high stakes and getting all the tactics and this, that, and the
I
other.
had 3
See, she needs to step back a little bit, let the kids be the kids, and learn from the people around them.
brothers too. I'm very competitive. So yeah, it's just a huge difference
Yeah,
with
it might even
parenting
be
over
their
here.
rugby football culture difference. I don't know,
Could
but
be.
yes. And because I grew up playing rugby as well, I was by myself, like rising to Annie's level at some point. I was like, "You're just those two people American sounding people that won't shut up now." So
Yeah, that's a very American
no,
thing.
no, I don't think anyone made a point of it, but it is something to consider.
Remember, we're in Britain and they're polite, so they're probably saying it in their minds or later on the way home.
You're not going to be as loud on the side of
Hmm.
the rugby or football pitch as you are in America, I think.
Another difference that I've seen is that American parents typically show more outward displays of affection. So, dropping off their kids at school, everyone was giving their kids hugs and kisses and I love you. Have a great day. It's going to be so nice to see
Go
you when
get
you
him,
get home.
champ.
Yeah, it really was like that. And over here, there is the hug and goodbye, but that's it. It doesn't go beyond that. Whereas our cuddles will be like a minute long and
Yeah, I don't. It's not like I don't know if it's like a tough love or it's just not expressed as much. Like these families are deeply love their children, but they just don't show it like they do in America.
Mhm.
It's very British. It's that whole reserved British thing.
It's more like a pat on the head, like don't get into trouble. But that is their way of showing affection.
Yeah, it's
It's
just
very different.
slightly different.
But you
Understated.
do you. You do you.
I will continue to do me. One last thing before we get into schooling related ones is that in the US, do you hear Finnegan?
Our guard dog has alerted us to a danger.
We might need to bring him inside. He's
Probably
getting
just like
wild.
a pigeon or something.
So, because of healthcare costs in the US, you do think twice before taking your kid to the doctor's office for just little ailments, I would say.
Yeah, even if you have good insurance, which we thankfully did have, there's always something to pay.
A copay.
Whether it's just, I mean, it could just be $20, $30, but there's always something to pay. And then not going too deeply into it, for your whole family over the course of the year, you often have to spend thousands of dollars before everything is completely free.
Yes.
That includes your visits, your medication, follow-ups, all that sort.
It's called a deductible. You have to meet the deductible of your plan before you get any kind of care for free. So like if you, for example, my daughter, she fell and she scraped her knee, she needed 12 stitches. The reason that we had to pay $1,000 was because we had $1,000 deductible in our insurance. So we had to pay that $1,000 before the insurance would pay the rest of the bill. And if we didn't, then we'd have to be responsible for the entire bill.
First off.
Mhm.
Whereas in the UK and especially in Scotland, your appointments and your medication are free in terms of there's no money exchange at the point of service. So
And
yeah, it's just not something you have to think about. And
you're right. And
sorry.
because, oh no, I'm sorry. And because our family has been sick since the moment we stepped foot in Scotland, because honestly, new country, new germs, you start over, you're all toddlers in this together, getting sick daily.
We are both current.
Thank God someone else said it. I literally feel like I'm sick. I've been sick since I've landed. I say that all the time on the channel, and they're absolutely right. Like, I'm sick constantly, it feels like. And it's not like sick to the point where I'm debilitated. It's just like this kind of sick. Like I'm congested or I'm fatigued, you know, I'm like fighting a cold like constantly. It's crazy.
Apparently so.
Yes. But because of that, I feel no shame taking our kids to the doctor
Yeah.
whenever we need to here. And yeah, if there's something going on, we go get them seen. And where we are, luckily, we can get an appointment pretty easily.
I was about to say, to begin with, we were almost hesitant about it
Yeah.
because we'd heard horror stories like, oh, you can't get an appointment for weeks, this, that, and the other. And that is more true if you're an adult with not something that's not like life threatening.
Hmm.
Like, okay, yeah, your appointment's like next week or whatever. But for kids, they will try and squeeze them in.
Yeah.
Like our son had an ear infection recently, and he was seen the same day by a nurse at
Hmm.
the doctor's office, and we got the medicine the same day, that's another, and it was just seamless. As the kids get older, school is a huge consideration. And this is something we get a lot of messages and emails about.
Here's one more thing before we talk about the school stuff. Um, my we had a similar situation. Like my daughter's never had an appointment, had never had a trouble getting an appointment. She's had an infection recently as well. She has throat infections. She's had 2 this year, and we knew exactly what it was this time because we've been through it earlier in the year. And I saw she gets these like white growths on her tonsils. It's nothing serious yet because it's not a regular occurrence, but it was the second time that she got them this year, and we knew what it was, and we called them. We're like, "We're pretty sure we know what it was, but we have to get the medication, you know, the antibiotics or whatever." And they did get her in first thing in the morning the next day. So I have to say, like, I don't know if it's just because of where we live, but I've not ever really had a hard time getting an appointment. In all honesty, I think it's probably where we live. We probably just live in that kind of area, but we've never had an issue getting an appointment. But I know I've heard horror stories as well about people having to wait a long time. I know people who are like waiting for surgeries and stuff like that. So I know it's not like something made up or anything like that. Because and also you guys have told me some horror stories y'all have had with like having to wait and things, but we've had the same luck so far. So hopefully it'll hold out.
Out. Trying to make the decision about where to live based on the schools and all that
Hmm.
is what was actually one of the biggest stressors that we found
It
in the move
definitely
over.
was. And it depends on where you are in the UK. Some places you can live out of your catchment area for the school you want to go to, and they'll easily let you attend if there's space. But in other areas, either more populated, highly desirable areas, your catchment is there's no wiggle room with
Mm.
that. Your catchment is where you're going to go if you choose to do public schooling or state schooling. Is that what you call it over here?
Locals, yeah.
Local free
we
schooling.
we're it's confusing over here because when you're talking between public and private, depending where you are, public can mean private and private by
Yeah.
anyway. This is the free local
It's very confusing. Very confusing.
authority schools that we're talking about at
Mhm.
the moment.
So, a parenting thing that you need to know is to find out where you want your kid to go to school. And you can do that by looking at the Ofsted reports and find out if it has a outstanding rating versus a good rating versus whatever. And you can make an informed decision that way. Um, Another thing in the US, it's quite rare, I would say, for people to go to private paid for
Mm.
schools unless you're an extremely affluent family or religious family and want them to go to a religious institution. It's not by any ways normal.
And while private schools in the UK are can still be expensive, it's not on the level in the US, I don't think. I
No.
mean, you can make a decent income here and still choose to send your kids to private school. It's a much bigger range of
Yeah,
pricing options, basically. Whereas in the States, I think it's much, much, much more exclusive.
it is. And so sending your child to a private school over here is a decision that many families consider, and it's actually an option. Whereas in the US, that's not typically an option
Mm.
for most families.
The next parenting
That's very true. It's very difficult to go to private school in America if you don't have money.
topic we're going to talk about is sex education because our 9-year-old, primary 4, has
Mhm.
just started learning about sex education in school, which was mind blowing to Annie.
It was because in the US, if sex education is even taught. It is, but in some degree in every state, but lesser in some of those southern states. Um, it
She was from Georgia. Just saying.
it's not taught until middle school, I
Mm.
believe, or fifth grade at the very earliest.
Annie was shocked when I told her when we started learning about sex education or had sex education classes. I remember it was, yeah, around primary four, primary five.
Hmm.
And it just is just her early biology lesson, basically.
Yeah.
There's no hidden agenda or anything. It just explains what's what and how things work. And just makes an easier topic to talk about with your young children
Hmm.
when they have questions or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And it just, as a parent, it helps because now you can just refer back to what they're learning in school versus this weird, strange topic that only parents know about or something.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's
Just
good because in the UK, I think like our family has talked about things from a very early age. Um, but being able to, especially for families who maybe haven't had those conversations, it all starts a bit earlier over here. So you're able to address things before they're learning about it when they're actually going through certain
mm,
things. So it's nice to sort of pre learn before you experience certain
which was
aspects.
more your
Yeah,
learning environment. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we there's this thing that they do in the US. I don't know if they did it in my generation. I don't know if they do it in the generations now. But they have like the talk. So basically you're like 11, 12, 13, and they sit you down and like the parent will sit you down. Usually it's the same sex parent, right? So if you're a daughter, then you sit down with your mom. If you're a son, you sit down with your dad, and they kind of explain the birds and bees to you. And then you have sex education around the same age in school to tell you like about disease prevention and hygiene and stuff like that. And sexual intercourse, what it results in having a child entails, all that kind of stuff. Um, and then that's it. Like, and it, like Annie was saying, it does vary from like school district to school district because local districts set up the curriculum. There's not a national curriculum. So there are some more conservative states that don't even teach sex education in their schools, or some even religious or private schools that don't teach it at all. Yeah. And we have the similar situation as they did. Our daughter asked questions, we answered them, as best as we could for that age appropriate, answers. And then as she got older, we had more in-depth conversations, right? I feel like that's the best way to do it. Like, why don't hide it. It's stupid to hide it. Then it becomes taboo and then it becomes something more interesting to people. Same thing with the drinking. Like I think that you handle that better as well because you don't hide it, right? You don't necessarily give them drinks at 5, but you don't hide it. You can give them a sip or whatever, and so they know what it is, and then they stop bugging you, and you move on. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't become a big thing that they're really interested in or they really go crazy with later.
So, um, we did get a message beforehand from the teacher saying this is what we're going to be starting next week. Fast forward to that next week, we asked our son how it went. He's like, well, they started the first video or lesson or whatever it was, and everyone started laughing so much they had to stop. So baby steps. But yeah, it just bringing in this early age just helps kids understand a lot more and helps parents, as we discussed. So yeah, huge difference between the two.
I think the problem is the parents get super awkward about it instead of it just being like a natural part of conversation. If they're uncomfortable with the subject, then it just spills over into how they parent about the subject, no matter what subject it is, whether sex, religion, drinking, whatever it is. There's always something that you're insecure about. You have to kind of get over that as a parent, I've learned. And just, it's because it's not about you, it's about the kid. And you want to make sure we were always approached it where we wanted to make sure that our child had the right information first, even if it made us uncomfortable.
Countries right there.
And I think also it's built up a trust It builds up a trust with your kid because you do it from an early age. They know they can rely on you. They know that you're not lying to them. And I think that they're more likely to come to you with bigger problems if you do it that way. It's my opinion.
Mhm. Another cultural difference is the driving ages. And with that, decisions with parenting around driving. So in the US, I could get my permit where I was able to drive with a family member who had a license. And that was at the age of 15. And I could legally drive by myself at the age of 16.
Like, whereas in the UK, it's 17, and I cannot imagine driving a car at 15 on.
That's hilarious. In New Jersey, it's permit at 16 and drive at 17. But he was like, it's not that long. I mean, it's only a couple years, but he was definitely not happy about that 15 age.
The road with my parents. I was, yeah,
I don't understand it now thinking what my brain was at age 15.
yeah.
I am fully against this.
We tried to start brainstorm as to like why that might be. Maybe the roads in the US are easier to drive on, or
Larger, straighter,
yeah,
bigger parking
or
spots.
maybe there's just more of a requirement that people need to use their car
Yeah, that's
to
true.
get.
I think it just boils down to honestly, the automobile industry, gasoline industry, all that. They just want more drivers. I'm just boiling it down. That's my opinion, obviously. I don't know. I'm not backing it up by facts or anything, but I think that's probably it, in all fairness, because um it's all about money in the US.
At places or get to work or school rather. But yes, we're going to go into the driving side of things in a whole series of videos because somebody is on the way to learning how to drive. But yeah, the age there is a huge difference and a huge consideration. And if you're moving to the UK, something you've got a couple extra years to think about before you
Yeah.
actually make
And
that
have a
decision.
little more trust in your child because a 15-year-old versus a so 17 and when
Mm.
you can get your permit or drive alone.
You can start taking lessons and stuff at 17, and
Okay.
then again over here you actually have to take lessons to pass the test.
So a 2-year difference, whereas that 2 years, there's so much development going
Yeah.
on. And that is
That's actually a good point, and they kinda glossed over it, but it's worth, delving into a little bit. You at least were how it was in New Jersey when I learned how to drive, you didn't have to take any actual real, like, driving school lessons. You could get taught by, like, a parent or a friend or something. You just have to make an appointment. You have to take your written test, which, by the way, we did in school, but you can just, like, go to DMV and take it. Like, you just make an appointment and you go and take it. Like, you don't have to have any prerequisite or anything. You just have to show that you're old enough to do it. Then you take your written test, which is your theory test, and then you get your permit, and that's how you're able to learn how to drive. But you don't have to take any kind of lessons from any licensed, qualified teachers or anything in order to get your license. You can take lessons from anybody. Like, my sister learned how to drive from my mom. She never took any lessons. I took lessons because my mom and I clash when we do stressful things like that together, and it did not go well when she tried to teach me. So I did end up taking lessons. But yeah, you don't have to. I don't know if it's still like that, but it definitely was like that when I learned how to drive.
decisions around what you feel comfortable allowing your child to do once they drive, where they drive,
Mm,
when they drive. Those are all conversations you have to have a lot earlier in the US,
yeah.
and have a lot more faith in your child at a younger age. So that's a big difference.
Yeah, we mentioned wanting to give our kids more freedom and stuff, but not when they're able to drive somewhere. Freedom in a field or a beach or something like that. But
That's kind of hypocritical. I'm just saying, like, if you trust them enough to ride their bikes across town, right? I know, obviously, driving a car is a very different experience than riding a bike, but I mean,
yeah,
Not on the road.
15-year-old out in the wild. Jeez. Yikes.
All right, moving on to the next one. Do you remember what it was?
No.
Well, we can talk about differences with parenting and school pride and spirit. Possibly.
Okay.
I think that might be a good one.
This is something I do miss from the US. The school like community and how much they celebrated that with the clothes you could buy. Over in the UK, if you saw a parent wearing a school T-shirt with like your local primary school on it, you'd be like, "What is going on here?" Whereas in the U.S., that's completely normal. All the schools.
Oh my god, so true. So true. My partner was so, like, baffled by that. He's like, "What are you talking about school spirit? Why does she have to wear school colors today? It doesn't make any sense. Who cares?" And, like, I would have, like, a I don't think I ever bought any of this stuff. I think I might have bought, like, a Girl Scout T-shirt once, but I was a leader too, so but anyways, like, uh, the parents would have, like, the school, like, jackets and stuff like that. It is funny. It is funny. It's huge. The school, like, pep stuff in the America is huge, and you don't do that at all here.
Have mascots, which is usually like
Mhm.
an animal, and they make clothes and
Yeah.
pencil cases and everything with the logo on it. And it's perfectly normal for parents to turn up wearing that stuff.
Like a jumper with the
Yeah.
school logo. Yeah, it's completely normal.
And then when there's events, people will come and all wear it. And it's just this big sort of community event. And yeah, and it's just, if America's at 11 for, what was it, school spirit prep rallies, school
Oh, yeah.
spirit, UK is about -1.
Yeah, I agree with that.
There's definitely some pride in your school, but it's
Mhm.
not expressed anywhere near like it is in the US.
So when I went asking Zach where I can buy the school jumper for me to go drop off the boys, he locked me in a
I was
closet immediately.
very confused. Like, you don't fit into child-sized clothes, so I don't understand how you're. Yeah,
So just not a thing. Definitely a cultural difference there.
yeah. So another difference, when kids are around the 12, 13, 14-year-old mark in the UK, you start taking your national tests, which
Mhm.
can and will determine your future in terms of university acceptance and all this, that, and the other. And I can attest that as a 12, 13-year-old, having to take sometimes 20 plus exams is stressful over the course of like a couple of weeks.
Mhm.
Now, the setup in Scotland and then the rest of the UK is different. So in Scotland, when you're at senior 3 and 4, you do your standard grades,
Mhm.
which you do about, I think, 7 or 8 topics. And then from that, in your next step, you go up to your hires, which are typically what are used to get you into university.
Okay.
Whereas in the rest of the UK, instead of standard grades, they have GCSEs, and then instead of hires, they have A levels.
Okay.
But they're
Okay, so A levels are the stuff that go to the university, and the GCSEs are the stuff that you do that everybody does? I think that's right.
all the tests are designed to put you on a track towards wherever you want to go in life,
Mhm.
basically.
And one parenting decision we see around this is whether or not to get a tutor because this is so high stakes and really plays into your future quite a bit. Many families, at least in our area, get their tutors to help sort of teach for the test.
And the other thing is, you're at these young ages and you have to make decisions about the subjects that you might want to study in 5, 10, however many years
So
in the
crazy.
future. Um,
Really? That young? That doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, my child's a teenager, she's approaching GCSE age, um, she's picking her stuff, but, like, kids get standardized tests all the time in America, and they're always told, "Oh, this is gonna" you can't graduate into the next grade until you pass the test properly. Like, you can't if you're in 2nd grade, which is, like, 7, 8-year-old, you have to, like, make sure you have passing grades in all the subjects before you can actually go up to 3rd grade, or you have to take, like so there's testing throughout, so I'm kind of baffled by their perspective of it, to be honest with you. Maybe they just didn't really have to encounter it yet in the US, but maybe the California schools are different than what I'm used to in New Jersey, but in Pennsylvania, but
and so, as a parent, that's something that you also need to be understanding of and trying to guide your child in whatever direction they might want to go based on their skills, abilities, likes, interests, this, that, and the other. Um, and
Whereas in the US, it's much more there are two different tracks you can go. You can either go the technical track where it's like you're going to go to a trade school after you graduate, or you go the college track or uni track where you're taking all these classes preparing you to enter university. And then your first 2 years of uni are just general classes where you're learning about statistics and
I never
biology.
understood why Henny here was doing computer science classes in university. I was like, she's the least computer scientist you'll ever meet. But yeah, like I said, the first 2 years of the university
Mhm.
is still general education.
So, although you do have to make and help guide your child to make those decisions about whether you're going in this route or this route, I would say in the US, it's more commonly pushed that you're pushing them towards uni and then to explore subjects when they actually get to uni. Whereas you do more of that in high school,
Yeah,
exploring the
it's
subjects.
kind of strange because in the US, sort of college is the goal.
Hmm.
Whereas that is definitely the goal for a lot of people in the UK. But I think going into like a trade or another vocation is almost more acceptable in the UK.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure why, but so
It's definitely more acceptable in the UK for that. The blue collar jobs and trade jobs are not, it's getting a little bit better in the US, but they were frowned upon for so long. It was all about white collar jobs, office jobs, finance jobs, that kind of stuff. And then professionals, lawyers, doctors, that kind of thing. For a really, really long time. It's definitely more acceptable to have just regular trade here in the UK.
strange that we make all our university decisions early,
Hmm.
whereas based on that, it would make sense, I think, for the US system to do that. But
So, just something to be aware of as parents. Another thing we see parents considering over here a lot more is to travel internationally. And we were wondering, like, why is that? And I think so
Any of you guys are members. If you're not a member, click the join button below, become a member. You get exclusive perks, plus you help us raise money for the Royal British Legion. But the my child last year took her first trip abroad, and it was the longest time she's ever away from us, and she's in a different country, and I kind of freaked out a little bit about it. Not gonna lie, because we're just not used to it. In the US, even if like we were on the East Coast, so even if she went to all the way on the other side of the country to California, it's still within distance. It's still within the country. It's not as difficult to get to, right? It's a pain in the ass, but I can get to her. Whereas it's a lot harder to get to someone in a different country, right? But she survived, she's fine, everything is fine, but I was freaking out. If you guys remember, and go check that video out. You can see all the behind the scenes of the whole progression of the several days that she was overseas, her first trip abroad.
much of it comes down to cost
mhm,
and just feasibility. The US is so large that to go out of it is such a hassle
yeah,
for many families. And you have so many different variations of the US that you can enjoy a lot and feel like you're in a different country
Yeah.
because it's ginormous. But it is just way more feasible over here to be able to travel to different countries, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah, you're just closer to the continent as well. Like there's just unless you're in like upstate New York or maybe like Washington State or Chicago, where you can go across the Canadian border fairly easily, or if you're in like Texas or Arizona where you're bordering in Mexico, you can cross there much easier as well. Southern California as well, and you can cross the southern border easily. But if you're not in those areas, where else are you going to go? Like New Jersey, I could cross the border to New York. That's the closest I got. Unless I were to keep driving. So, and then if you keep driving south, a lot of the south it's water as well. Like we're just surrounded by water on a lot of sides in the US. So, and it is so vast. A lot of people don't even have passports in the US because they don't need them.
I never understood why such a high percentage of Americans didn't have passports until I realized you can get a taste of so many different varieties within your own country.
Hmm.
Having said that, we have Europe on our doorstep,
Mhm.
and getting to truly experience different cultures and countries so easily. You can do it literally on a long weekend
Hmm.
is something that we're really excited for our kids to experience and for us to share with them as well.
Yes. And I would say, whereas in the US, to be able to do international travel, especially on a yearly basis, that's more for affluent families or families that are in the military and are actually in these different countries. So, in order to do that travel, you're planning years in advance
Yep.
and saving and saving. Whereas over here, it's so much more feasible to make a quick 3 day.
Like,
Yes, by far. Plus, it's not just the cost, it's you don't get a lot of time off. The kids don't get as much time off of school unless it's the summer. So, like, it is hard. It's hard to travel at all, even within the US, let alone outside.
Day trip.
as I say, like a trip from the USA to France could be a once in a lifetime trip,
Yeah.
whereas here it's a train ride. Well, a couple of trains, but you
Yeah.
can basically get the train to France, which is incredible.
We did that. Went to Calais for the day, Calais and Dunkirk, and it was fantastic. First time I ever did it. It was frigging awesome. Loved it. I definitely wanna do that more often.
And the difference with jet lag, so
Mm.
you're not going to have that jet lag. When you're coming from the US, you want to get your money's worth. So you're going to stay a longer period of time if you're doing an international travel. And it takes about a full week for
Yep.
your body
We can
to,
100% attest to that.
to get used
Anytime
to.
you go, went either way, the kids sleep and everything are out of whack for at least a week. And that's a minimum of like a 5 hour time difference up
Mhm.
to 7, 8 hours. So
But with that said, because the US has semesters rather than what are they called?
terms,
Terms, we only have 2 semesters. So you have a 2 week break right after Christmas, and then something like 8 or 9 or 10 weeks for summer vacation. You have to go at one of those two times
yep.
in the year. Um, and many people decide to do it in the summer. So it's so much more expensive in the
Yep.
summer. And that's just something to keep in mind and because you want to have that time. Whereas in the UK,
Yeah. I mean, right now, Easter break, the kids have near enough like 3 weeks off. I think it's
Yeah.
like two schedule weeks, but the weekends and stuff, it's almost 3 weeks. So,
Yeah, the kids have so much more time off of school here. It's insane. Like, we were just talking about it the other day, like, if my child's got another day off this week. Like, why? This was like there's, like, some kind of school teacher thing going on, so they have the day off of school, but she's got, like, 2 or 3 weeks until she's got time off again. It's ridiculous.
oh, technically, you could do like a US trip and go for 2 full weeks. Conversely, you can just jump across to Europe and go for a long weekend or use those shorter little week breaks to do the same thing, which is
and
nice.
with your 3 terms, so they get about 2 weeks off in between each of the
Hmm.
terms, a little bit more in the summer, of course. But even midterms, you have at least a long weekend, if not a 4, 5 day
Yeah.
time off. So there's more opportunity throughout
Yep.
those terms to travel and to do international travel because you're not fighting that jet lag.
So yeah, if you've just done a move, a large move like we have, and are worried about how you would afford a big family holiday in the summer, do not worry. You can have a little family holiday
Yes.
to, I mean, you can just drive to the countryside or you can drive to France or
Hmm.
yeah. So there's plenty more options and cultures to explore right on your doorstep, which is incredible.
I think we're going to wrap it up here, though. So, those are some of the differences we've seen in parenting sort of styles or
Options.
options, decisions that you have to make that you don't necessarily get to make in another country. So, yeah, it's just interesting to go
Hmm.
through those and let us know if there's something we forgot or.
So that was simple Scottish living. Really insightful stuff. It was interesting to see another parenting's point of view comparisons. The pep rally thing where he was like that he likes that better. I think that's kind of funny because most of the British people I've met have been like, "What?" So that was funny. But and I actually that's one of the things I actually hate about American schools. I think it's stupid. But different strokes, folks. Um and the other things that they were saying, I was nice to have like the other thing I was like confused about was the driving thing. But again, that's just perspective. But it was nice to have a little bit of validation about like the time off of schools, the accessibility, the just just the way that different people parent here. Interesting. I the only thing I would have added would have been something, about the uniforms, because I that's just something that is so it's on my radar. I don't know why. I don't really have a problem with them. I just go back and forth between uniforms. I think that they're a good idea on a lot of levels, but I also like totally believe in free expression and stuff. And I think fashion is a way to do that. So hindering a child's fashion is, you know, development is different. That I mean, I have a whole couple videos about that that we've talked about, and you guys can look those up if you want. And take check them out and let me know your thoughts on that specific topic. But yeah, I was surprised they didn't touch on the uniform situation. But other than that, you know, a lot of the stuff they said I totally agree with, and totally see where they're coming from, obviously. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed that. See you next time. Bye.